the high school market is one of those that are very kind of close to me too, just because I got a stress fracture my sophomore year of high school. And between that and this last summer, decade and a half went by or so, I was healthy, completely healthy in that 15-year stretch or so. But, the stress fracture in high school really kind of set me back a good bit, because whether you're trying to get recruited or go to college to run, all those things, essentially the best they could do is like, we'll see you in a few months.
Really excited for this episode of the Run DNA podcast. We've got special guest Brad Miles from Lever. And if you're ever a runner that has dealt with injuries, if you're looking how you can maintain your fitness levels during injuries, or maybe even doing some prehab to avoid injuries in the first place, this is something that I'm excited to share with the audience as well, not just our runners, but our running specialists, having the tools that runners need in order to make sure that they're getting and staying healthy. So this is another tool in the toolbox that I would love to talk about. Have a great interview with Brad coming up. We talk a lot about training load and how we can manage it, and protocols of how to get back from running. So hope you enjoy this episode, and let's dive in. Hey everyone, Doug Adams here with Run DNA Podcast. Really excited today. Lucky to have Brad Miles from Lever Running Company, and really excited to have this conversation. Brad and I have known each other for more recently in the past year, but it's funny, we've crossed paths for a long time. I think we originally kind of met through Tin Man, where I had some of my athletes working with that, and they were using, based in Boulder, Lever, right? I think that's how we originally got acquainted, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, I think definitely in the Tin Man scene. And then I think a PT here as well that you are a partner with.
Yes. With build up. Yeah. So then you were visiting this past summer in July. I actually went and found the photo here, and it's kind of a funny photo because you can see, if you're looking at this, one of these people spends more time outside than the other here. My legs are pretty pale. But you were nearby visiting family, I believe, and it worked out that you were nearby Omega Project, and we came and just had fun playing with the lever and playing with gait analysis. And I learned that Brad is not only a great entrepreneur, but also a really great runner. Ultras, right? You're doing mostly ultra running there?
Yes. Yeah. I just finished up a 50 miler before I saw you there. So.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. You had just.
Yeah. I was outside a lot.
Yeah. You have been doing a lot of training, just come off it. And then, well, that makes me think your form's even better. So we were playing around with this. I had used the lever before even Brad and I met. It was something that, a lot of athletes will come to our clinic and we will treat them. And they're a lot of times recovering from injury. And it was limiting that we didn't have some type of bodyweight support. And then when I learned about the lever, I was like, well, this is perfect. So we started incorporating it in here because a lot of my athletes had already used it out in Colorado. So it was just a natural fit. So actually, I'm gonna show your form here a bit. It's going to cut off our audio for a second here. But when you watch the video, it's pretty cool, actually. So Brad has really good form. We did tweak your form a little bit, actually. And you did a really nice job of changing the form. But the cool thing that we did was then we had you change your form with the lever on. So we're going to show the video. And the first thing is just your natural form. And then when you watch it for a little bit, there's going to be a second one that comes up on the screen. And you're able to see how you change your form. I think I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was a lot easier to do on the lever. It was not as hard to do.
Definitely. I mean, definitely doing something at a partial body weight is easier to hold, for longer, for sure.
Oh yeah. Because when somebody changes their form, it can be a little bit metabolically hard for somebody to do. So let's watch the video real quick here and just see it here. And then we're going to get into lever and what it is. And hopefully you're wondering what is this lever they're talking about? And we can go into the whole origin story. All right, and actually, I figured out how to unmute my mic while this is going here. So that was his normal form, and actually now we're going to pull up and show a reference of his other form. You can just see some of the differences there of just what the form looks like, and he did a really nice job, but he just was very fluid. And he had a really nice, even pattern with the new form, which a lot of times we see a lot of shakiness with that. So that was really actually pretty cool to see how your form, just like it solidified it. And we had been doing it before that, but after that, we started really using the lever even more as a tool to make it easier for people to change their form. So hopefully people are like, what's this lever? How do I get one? All that kind of stuff. But give us the background story of how it came to be, why you started it, your mission, the company's mission, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, awesome. Well, first off, yeah, thanks for having us. Delighted to be here. I was not aware that my skeleton was going to be shown on video today, but no, it's all good. Well, I mean, first things first. Born and raised in Philadelphia, so not too far away from Omega PT there. So obviously, popped down to see you when we were in town. But yeah, I mean, long story short, yeah, grew up in Philadelphia. Ended up running for a school down in Texas in college, and then a few years later moved up to Boulder, Colorado. And so, one of the things that I had the benefit of when I was in college was having access to an AlterG a good bit. We had two just for the track and cross country team. And so out of college, moving up to Boulder, a lot of my friends were professional athletes, Olympians even, and just even for them, gold medalists, right? Even for them to not really get access to an AlterG or a bodyweight support device just kind of blew my mind. And so this was around 2019, end of 2018, early 2019. My co-founder and I, he's an engineer, I'm more on the sales partnerships, marketing side. We just sat down and said, like, okay, first off, is there anything out there in the space that is accessible and affordable in the bodyweight support space that anybody could purchase for their home treadmill? Really found not too many options out there, really no options out there that made sense for an individual consumer. And then, kind of fast forward, we wanted to make a design that was lightweight, compatible with pretty much 95, 100% of the treadmills out there, and could fit on just the arms of a treadmill. So it could be, like I said, lightweight. You can break it down really easily, travel with you when you need it to. And so, a lot of so we've got two products today, and they're really just built around, affordability is huge for us, just because I'd say 90+% of our customers are individual consumers for their house. So we work with a lot of Ironman athletes, a lot of marathoners, and we also work with a lot of physical therapists and colleges as well. But I'd say still majority of our customers today are the individual consumer. Yeah, so I mean, this is definitely long-winded, but one of our missions is, in about 10 years from now, so 2034, is to see an unloading component built into every single treadmill in the world. And so every new treadmill that's manufactured, we want us to see an unloading component to that. And one of the reasons why is because this functionality is so beneficial for a lot of for pretty much everybody. And so, and we can talk about the benefits here in a second, but yeah, that's absolutely one of the things that we've been excited about. We've been in business for about 5 years, and just the different use cases that we weren't expecting with bodyweight support when we launched the company are kind of coming to the forefront too. Obviously injury recovery was the no brainer, but the performance side of bodyweight support is really fascinating.
Yeah, it's fascinating. One of the things that drew me to it is something that we talk a lot about in injury and as well as performance is load or stress on the body here, and how that is such a factor on somebody's ability to participate safely and somebody's ability to participate at high levels. So, where you're at in Boulder, which, is a great place, but don't move there if you ever want to place in your age group in a 5K, right? It's the worst place to move for that. Everything else is great, but don't move there if you have any shred of trying to place in an age group in a 5K ever again. But the load management for athletes is huge. And that was something that at the high level, working with the higher level athletes there, we see that managing their stress, but allowing them to get enough of a fitness stimulus for them is huge. So doing something like their double on the lever offers them a big advantage of getting a cardiovascular input without causing a lot of musculoskeletal stress. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's a big part about running. We've done, I think our first episode for this podcast was all just about like, why do people get injured? And it's because the stress on their body is more than they can handle. So, we talked about this for professional athletes, and that's how we came. But we've seen a lot of use for it, and I'd love to hear. You said you're seeing a lot of use case scenarios as well. So, who are the people that maybe you're surprised, or maybe some of your biggest customers, and what are they using it for? What are some of the things that you're just finding your people are swearing by it for their day in and day out use?
Yeah, and I think you really hit the nail on the head from an injury recovery standpoint. And so, you know, and I'm preaching to the choir here, but vertical GRF is like a significant factor that leads to injuries a lot of times, and that can be when you're running like 3 upwards to 5 times your body weight with every step, and so like that's just a ton of force that you're putting on your body, and that's over a 60-minute run, and if your steps per minute are 90 or 180 for both feet, like that's a lot of times that you're pounding the ground. So that adds up over time. And so that's been one of the neat things about the unloading aspect of it as well. So, obviously use cases as far as like the injury recovery, the protocols, around like the common running injuries, right? The Achilles issues, plantar fasciitis, shin splints, knee pain. There are protocols built out for those, for people to come back and actually use bodyweight support in like a research driven protocol format. And then the flip side of that too is the performance side, and that's one of the things that there's not as much research out about today. One area that we want to definitely expand in, because again, what we're trying to do with our bodyweight support product is to make it as accessible so that people can use it as much as they need to use it and not rent out time, whether it's $60 or $100 for an hour, right? Like if they have one at their house with our system, like they can use it whenever they want. And so what we're really seeing in the endurance space, and I'll talk to that first specifically, is Ironman athletes, marathoners, half marathoners. There's a few different ways that people are using it. One, it's for the recovery run before a workout. So that's like one aspect. So just being able to get the full distance in, getting your turnover up a little bit more before the day of a workout. Some of the cool things about bodyweight support is if you're running at 90% body weight, so reducing 10%, you can run 30 seconds per mile faster at the same effort. And so your heart rate is the same even though you're running 30 seconds per mile faster. So the turnover component of that's really huge, and then, that also leads into the overspeed stuff. So, tempo runs, intervals, they can be done at a faster pace, essentially because you're reducing your body weight. So, increasing your weekly volume. We work with a lot of athletes that, whether their breaking point is 30 miles a week or 40 miles a week or 100 miles a week, they're able to use bodyweight support, offload 2 days a week or so, use it for the double runs, like you mentioned, and be able to kind of break through their weekly volume barriers that their body is set for them. And, that's huge for bringing down marathon times and things like that. So we've seen a lot of success in that area.
Yeah, yeah, you said a lot of really interesting things in there. Like, I wanted to make 2 points with that too, because I even had a runner come in for a gait analysis yesterday, and no matter whether you're a first timer or first place in the world, one of the things that runners hate, just absolutely hate, is losing fitness and feeling like they're going backwards. A statistic that we tell people a lot of times is that although it's challenging to gain fitness, right, and it takes a long time to build fitness, it's not hard to maintain it. 50% of your training load will maintain your current level of fitness. So if you're running 50 miles a week and you're injured or something happens and you can only run 25 miles per week, you're not gaining fitness at that point, but you're not losing it either. And for somebody that's dealing with an injury, or they're dealing with life stress or anything that interrupts their ability to accept more training load, then being able to do even half of what you normally do is a huge benefit. And that's where something like having the lever at your disposal can be really great to say, all right, it's easier. I can run below my pain threshold, below where an acceptable pain threshold would be. And you can get that training value in, which is huge because nobody wants to go backwards. Absolutely, that's the last thing that they want to do. So I think that that really offers a lot of benefit for it.
Yeah, 2 points on that too, real quick. So, I was just talking to one of our customers on the phone the other day. He's mid 60s from New York, and he really just wants to keep his fitness up. He
Mhm.
knows that a lot of his friends that are in the same age group, they'll get something that sets them back a month or 2 months from
Yeah.
running, and it almost takes a year, multiple years, to get back
Mhm.
to a similar fitness level. And where he wanted to really introduce lever into his training is just mainly for a prehab standpoint. And so
Yeah.
just offloading a couple days a week for him has just kept him really healthy. He initially bought it also for like some hip, some hamstring issues that he was working through, but he was able to run through his hamstring issues pain free, where he said he could not run outdoors pain free at all. And so that's really one cool story. And then the other one is honestly just a personal story. I've been very fortunate to be a really healthy runner for pretty much all my life. But this summer, right before I saw you, and before my ultra, I had knee patellar tendinopathy,
Mhm.
and six weeks before my 50-mile ultra, and I
Mm.
actually had to take 2 weeks off of running completely because of how much pain I was in. And then with the local PT here, I developed just a good little routine and strategy with body weight support, with inclined running. And I initially thought I was going to have to just not like withdraw from the race because I was in so much pain. But using body weight support, running at an incline, shortening my stride a little bit, like these were all things that led me to be able to compete. And not only compete, I was able to win the race, which was really cool because like I said, I thought I was going to have to withdraw from the race initially.
And, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you won that race, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, like, it shows you that there can be performance and you can maintain that fitness level and you don't have to give up, which I think is great. And I mean, from my perspective as a physical therapist, I think that it's important to have a lot of these tools at your disposal too. That's one of the things we talk about. A lot of our 3D sites that have it, when a runner comes to see you, they really want you to have all the tools and they want you to have all the access here. They want you to be able to do their gait analysis and provide them strength training and coaching and help them with, have the good treadmill and have the lever support so that they can do that stuff. And it really makes it a much more cohesive area so that you can figure out for that individual, like I love what you said, where you had to kind of figure out your personalized plan of, all right, I'm going to change my form a little bit and maybe I'll do some exercises. I'm going to modify my training. And that got you not only to the start line, but in good enough shape to win, which is great. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a story that is a reality of running, right?
Mm,
We used to, early in my career, I was like, I'm going to create things that prevent running injuries, and then I got a little wiser and realized, like, maybe let's change that word prevent to like, let's take a proactive approach to running injuries. And if we can get ahead of them, because they're bound to happen from time to time, it's a repetitive sport. These things happen. But if
mhm,
you have some tools that can help you, like your gentleman in, I think you said New York, the 60-year-old, like if you can run through a hamstring, great. So
mhm.
those are great stories with it. And the other thing that I really like, because I get all your emails, and I would definitely like, you guys provide some great email content, so I get on your email list, and I really like seeing the case studies and the stories and hearing about both local and world level athletes that are using your product there. But what I also like, and you mentioned it a little earlier too, is that you have some protocols and some guidance, because a lot of people are probably thinking, if they're a runner listening to this, well, this sounds great, but well, how long do I run? Do I do my long run on this? Doug's talking about doubles, and Brad's talking about doing all his volume on it. Like, how, what do I do? Do we do speed work on here? And one of the things that's really nice, if you are dealing with some specific things, that you guys have some protocols. So maybe, Brad, you can just talk a little bit about some of those resources you've developed for people so that they aren't just getting a tool and being like, all right, it's on my treadmill, and now what? Yeah, so love to hear about some of those
Yeah.
resources you're creating.
Yeah. Well, first off, I'll touch on one point you just mentioned around like, so I did not do actually all my volume on
Right.
lever. So I just realized that I could not put two back-to-back outdoor days in a row.
Mm.
And so I've had to offload, a couple times a week still, but I was able to get outdoors for like key sessions. I just want to make that point because
Yeah.
I'm, although we are a bodyweight support company that uses the treadmill that you already have at your house,
Right.
we do not actively like promote running on your treadmill at all times
As
of
your
the day.
solo training. Yes.
Right,
Yeah.
using body weight
Yep.
support. Like you need to get outside. Like you need that, right? Probably just for sanity as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to the protocols is so a couple things with this, right? So a lot of the protocols that are built out, we have them built out either on our website, we have them in blogs, and then also on our app. And so one of the neat things about our app is that it connects to our device. I know we haven't even kind of described our product much at this point, but we have a scale on our device that takes a measurement of how much weight you're reducing on your person and speaks via Bluetooth to an app so that it displays on your phone. Your account is saved on your phone, so it knows you're 100 pounds, you take 10 pounds off, you're running at 90% body weight. So it'll do that calculation and display on the phone. And then you can also follow fairly engaging protocols to come back. So like, plantar fasciitis, some knee protocols. I believe we have an Achilles one on there as well. There's a handful of stress fracture protocols on there. But just to kind of touch upon them high level, a lot of the protocols start around, taking 30% of your body weight off.
Mhm.
And so, and then really following more or less like a pain management program to get back. And so it's a little bit more, you'd see it as you go through the programs on our app or on our blog. But short story is, don't progress more than your body can handle, right?
Mhm.
And so that could set you back even more. And so we do everything kind of, not everything, but pain management wise, and worked with local PTs to kind of build those protocols out for our customers.
That's awesome. Yeah. So maybe you mentioned on it, like we haven't really described the device yet. So maybe you can just take a second to describe a little bit, like, what does it look like? How does the runner interact with it? Give us a little details there.
Yeah. Yeah, so like I said earlier, it's a lightweight frame.
Yep.
And so we've got two units, both lightweight. So one of them's 10 pounds, the other one's 8 pounds. Not a huge discrepancy there. The one that's 10 pounds, it's 4 different pieces, and it's the one you actually have, Doug.
Yep.
Kind of more commercial as well. But 4 different pieces. It sets up in under 90 seconds, 2 minutes. It sits right on the arms of a treadmill. And then we use a pulley system with a bungee cord, so that you still have free range of motion on the treadmill while you are unloading. And then, the other thing is we have shorts that come with the system as well. And so, those shorts are designed for the system and are included in a purchase of our unit. So that's one of them. The other one really does the exact same thing. It just fits into a backpack. And so if you want to think more like telescoping tubes, it's fully it's all one piece and just telescopes into a backpack that you can just kind of take to the gym or really take anywhere with you if you don't have a treadmill at your house. So super lightweight. Again, that one just sets up in 90 seconds and you can get started running pretty quickly. So yeah, that one's
The,
helpful if you need to take it to the gym.
And I must say, like, the shorts are actually very comfortable. You would think like, oh man, that's like a wedgie, right? But it's not at all. We like the shorts so much that you guys helped us out, and we made some shorts for our device with the Velcro, and they're very lightweight. They don't obstruct your movement. You don't feel like you're wearing scuba gear with it there, which is really nice because it's. If you feel like you're a sausage squeezed into those, it might change your form a little bit and have an impact on your running. Whereas in these, I really don't feel like it changes it. And actually, in ways, one of the things I think we've even mentioned this. I don't know if we mentioned it in our courses or if we mentioned it in webinars or things like that, but and we alluded to this in the beginning of the conversation that I use it personally to help runners with gait retraining. One of the things, and we had this case yesterday, and we ran out of time, but when this person comes back, I'm going to get them on the lever because when we change somebody's form, a lot of times what we see is that they lose a bit of their forward lean angle. they feel like they're going to fall over a little bit if we change some of their mechanics that way. And some of it's how we change it, and some of it's a result of what we change. But with the lever, it's really nice. It actually promotes a little bit of a forward lean. And the forward lean with run should actually come like you're leaning from your ankles, not like you're leaning from your waist. And I found actually that that's something that some people really struggle with, is getting that forward lean when we're changing their mechanics. And with the lever, I find it actually promotes a pretty good forward lean. So it can be even almost like a drill, because we need, there's not many ways that runners can experience running at slower speeds other than doing drills. And reducing the body weight is another way that we can use it as a learning technique. And I know that's maybe not one of the primary intention. There's only maybe a few of us here, but just to nerd out a little bit, like it really does help you to promote, have good form, and can be something that can be really beneficial too. So an unintended consequence, or maybe it was intentional, but definitely a benefit of it.
Yeah, we actually hear that a lot, just around athletes that are using the system, and then especially if they're coming back from injury, they're using our device a lot more in that period, and then they get back to the outdoors, and we get comments like that all the time of like, "Hey, people comment on my form now saying it looks so much better," and I've just been running on lever last 2 months to come back from my stress fracture or whatnot, but. Yeah, it is cool. One of those unintended consequences, like you mentioned, that wasn't the initial purpose going into it, but it's a good outcome.
Hey, it's a nice perk there. Maybe it's not the first thing on your pamphlet, but it's a good one to be able to say. And when runners are talking about it, they'll be able to share that information. So, yeah, it's a cool story too. Just like a lot of companies built out of a need, something that wanting to get more people access to it, and kind of democratize the ability to get some of that, it was huge. I think that it's something that coaches, teams, I think that this is something that's within reach of a high school team that would be able to access this too. We see stress fractures pretty high, especially in the youth population. Maybe there's a little attrition that the older adults don't get it as much because they're more skeletally mature, or the people that get stress fractures stop running altogether. But especially in the younger population, I found this to be really helpful. And I know I've used it. We see a lot of the high level runners from the tri-state area, and the recreational runners really do enjoy that as well. So it's something just to consider for every type of runner could utilize it.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, I mean, we work with a lot of high schools, and so yeah, I feel like that's where I first got injured, and so that's the high school market is one of those that are very kind of close to me too, just because I got a stress fracture my sophomore year of high school, and between that and this last summer, which is decade and a half went by or so, I was healthy, completely healthy in that 15-year stretch or so, but the stress fracture in high school really kind of set me back a good bit, because whether you're trying to get recruited or go to college to run and all those things, and you're essentially, I went to a very large school in the Philadelphia area too, and essentially the best they could do is like, we'll see you in a few months, right?
Yeah.
Like, kind of good luck. And so that's whenever high schools reach out, those are the ones that I love talking to and working with. So
we have a eerily similar injury history as well. I had like my freshman, sophomore year, I had stress fractures in high school. And then at the same time you were here, you had a patellar tendon issue. I had a partially torn patellar tendon. So maybe it's like an entrepreneurial thing or something. We're built genetically that way, but it's funny to have little parallels in our injury history. Maybe that's just runners in general.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's funny. I know we were going through the same thing this summer, so it's helpful to, go through that. But
there. So, well, I love everything about it's great to learn about this too. Brad and I, when we talk, we also maybe switching gears for a second. We also love to talk about like the business and the development side and things like that. So a lot of times on here, I'm a big reader. I always love to know what people are reading or what they're doing. And I think one of the books I don't know, I think you had read it before you got here, and you and I connected on the Donald Miller Story Brand as one of the books like everyone read. Very influential there. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we're both in the same space, and it's about not being the hero, right? Like we
Right.
don't want to position ourselves as the hero. And so that's what that book really goes through really well is, the customer's a hero. And as the company, we're just the guide to help them get to where they're trying to go. And
Yeah.
that's been extremely helpful just for our whole team then, marketing team, any customer support team, like anybody that's interacting with a customer just, has that ingrained in them now. Just, what's the
Yeah.
customer's goals, right? Like they're
Yep.
trying to run Boston Marathon and they have a setback right now. Okay, let's help them out. There's a guide to get there. And they will be the hero at the end of the day and have a great Boston. But right now they need some help.
Yeah, and I think when you put that customer at the center, like you shared stories about how you've helped people and how they've used the product. Like when you put that at the center, you're going to create good products. You're going to listen to it. Like that's a huge part. So the other video you mentioned, I don't know if I've seen this one here. You had watched a TED talk
Yes.
about single biggest reasons why startups succeed, and I was like, well, I'm definitely going to ask them what that reason is here as a smaller startup type company here. So maybe you could talk a little bit to that as well. I'm eager to learn about that.
Yeah, that's a good one. So it's only going to take 7 minutes of your time to watch. It's a
All
nice
right.
short talk, but that one really stuck out to me just because as we were going into this whole process, we launched a product just to essentially test the waters to see is our consumers going to be receptive to what we're doing? Like
Yeah.
our competitor is $50,000 plus, tens of
Hmm.
$1,000s more than we are, and is there a market for the individual consumer in the space? And that TED Talk goes into Bill Gross. He really successful business leader. I think he's got a couple hundred companies under his portfolio now. He's like a think tank, all that stuff. And so he looked at all of the companies that are in his portfolio of companies, and he measured things like funding and
Mm-hmm.
the executive team and which include the founders and all these other aspects of launching a company essentially. And he said, and timing was one of them as well. And so just to make a long story short, he mentioned that timing was the single greatest factor that led to business success. And
Hmm.
so, he had a company that was essentially like YouTube. The year before YouTube came out, they raised a ton of money, had like a celebrity that was promoting it, all these things, but
Hmm.
they were 1 year ahead of like Adobe releasing the functionality to watch videos very easily online. And so their company failed, and then YouTube came out when it was essentially the prime time to do it. And so that was one of the stories. And so that's just crucial for me too, is just
Hmm.
making sure that the market timing and your timing aligns. And so that's where right now a lot of our focus is just on education. And
Yeah.
a lot of people don't know what body weight support is, so we're just taking the time to educate and do our best to um, not not get ahead of the timing of the market. So that's why I like that one.
That's very interesting too. And I think there's another parallel between the two companies. We're kind of as a gait analysis company, but also people that, educating providers and run specialists on it. Their gait analysis is becoming much more common, and runners are starting to realize, like, oh, just walking in a store is not a gait analysis. That there's a lot more to it there, but we're having to grow that and build it. But I don't know. I'm going to have to watch the TED Talk now and
Yeah.
see. But I think it also tells me my response was, if you have an idea and you think there's a chance, like, don't delay,
Mm-hmm.
because the timing is everything. So if the timing is that important, then if you have a good idea, like, don't sit on it. Go out, be bold. Fortune favors the bold, right? I think that's one of the sayings there. So, um, yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that, and definitely now I'm going to put that on my list, and maybe we can put that in the show notes for everybody
Yeah.
looking for it. So, Brad, absolute pleasure. Really appreciate you being on. How can people get a hold of you? How can they find out more information about Lever? What are ways we can keep in touch?
Yeah, so first and foremost, on Instagram we're at Lever Movement. That's where our primary platform that we push out A lot of our content is today. Our website is great, and that since we're direct to consumer company, all of our shopping is done as an e-commerce shop on our website, and that's levermovement.com. And then, me personally, I've got a few ultras coming up, and I'm doing my best to educate people on the performance side of bodyweight support. And so I'm using our product to get ready for, I've got a 60K coming up in a handful of weeks here. And I've got a couple other races before I do the Leadville 100 this summer. So
Leadville, exciting.
Yeah.
Is this your first time doing Leadville, or have you done it before?
First time doing the 100. Yes.
Really? Oh, that's exciting. All right. Well, now I definitely want to follow along with your training and make sure we're seeing how that's going. So what's the date on that this year? What is
it's August 17th, something?
17th. Okay. All right. Well, we'll be watching here. So good. Well, really appreciate you being on. Thanks for sharing all about Lever with us here. And definitely appreciate your time and wish you best of luck and continued success. And congrats on what you've done so far. It's impressive. So thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Yeah, appreciate it.
Like what you hear? Leave a review of the show wherever you listen, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Run DNA helps runners and running specialists through education and technology to identify each runner's unique injury profile to avoid setbacks and maximize results. The Run DNA podcast is produced by Ace Running LLC. The Run DNA podcast is intended for educational purposes only. No clinical decision-making should be based solely on one source. While care is taken to ensure accuracy, factual errors can occur. Always seek the guidance of qualified medical professionals before making healthcare decisions. Find us online at rundna.com.